Okay, I'm live. About a couple minutes early, but we'll give it a couple of minutes and let everybody get on, and we'll see what we're going to talk about tonight. While I watch this squirrel I just fed. All right. Somebody joined in. Good deal. Now, what I want to talk about on this, now that I have my wonderful ironwood candles and crafts candles lit, my proud sponsors. Oh, yeah, I did. I got them all cut and off my face, too. It's going to be interesting at work tomorrow, isn't it? Yeah. So one of the reasons I'm doing this is I'm writing another book. And while I may know quite a bit, I don't know it all. So we're going to go over some of the things that I've written so far in the introduction of the new book. It's going to be called Something More. And as people get on, we'll discuss what all of this means and how we might expand upon it, what it might look like. I think that's the best thing. I mean, everybody has a say in how this should move forward in their life anyway. Everybody should, I don't really have a say in how anybody else does anything, but is it fair to suggest that if we all kind of work on it together and discuss the ideas involved in it, could we not come up with something that really makes a difference? And I think that's the whole reason we do all these things, why I do these things and invite everybody to be a part of it. So we're going to go over the introduction. I kind of worked on some more of it last couple of days, just a little bit here and there. And then I've got some ideas as I read it and we're going to go over, right? So I think one of the things, and I read this a couple of weeks ago, and I'll probably read it 10 more times before we're done with this process. But we have this idea. Everyone who comes to Austrue, Norse paganism, heathenry, does so with a basic idea that things will get better. I suspect I should change that to hope, or the idea that, the thought that things are going to get better. I think that's why we all kind of come in here, is that maybe this different path. And it always goes back to that Megadeth song, Pete Sells. If there's a new way, I'm going to try it. It better work this time. I remember hearing that as a teenager, and I never really thought that such a thing would be a reality, but I guess your thoughts do create your reality. But usually when we jump into this, we do so, and it's undefined. There's no clear understanding of where we're going to go, how we're going to do it, what it's going to look like when we get there, or what the stages might be as we move through this spirituality. It's some undefined manner. How can we improve that? How can we do that? And I think this book is going to be one of those things that helps clarify what can we really expect. Many of the books I've written before have done that, but in that endeavor in itself speaks volumes about the character of the people that we are. That describes anyone that jumps into something like that on hope alone has got more faith than most people that go to church, right? People that go to church have this reasonable expectation that somebody else is going to take care of it for them, right? That somebody else is going to handle all of the dirty details of their life, and they really don't have to do much to do it. They can go to church and ask forgiveness and keep moving forward as they always have. This doesn't seem like something that's conducive to building solid individuals that can work together in a congruent manner as a team, or build a society, or more importantly, hold a society together, okay? But here we go. Every day through trial and error, people of all kinds follow this path and they're surviving, right? How can we go beyond that just surviving? It's got to be more than just surviving, right? The development of the spiritual aspect of our being has got to yield for us something more than just, I'm getting by. We poor, but we happy. No, come on, let's work. Let's shoot for something better than that. And I don't think there's anything that ever says that we shouldn't or we can't. And yet more than willing, people are say, well, I'm poor, but I'm happy. Well, I think there's more to it than that. I believe that there's more to it than that. I've always lived my life that way. And indeed, this spirituality, as I've worked on it, has created that environment for me that I can be successful. Now, as Justin says, it's in a certain aquarium, but there's no judgment call on that. That aquarium has created purpose, guidance, and direction for millions of people. You work a job, you do your best, you move forward, you get an education, all those things. That's a pattern. That's a formula that works for all kinds of people. I don't necessarily know that it's conducive for us to just cast that out because we don't feel like playing the game anymore. It's too tough. We couldn't figure it out. We failed. We didn't try hard enough, or something didn't work. See, that's the point where we got to start looking at ourselves. And I think that's part of what this is about, is when we get into Austertrue or Norse paganism or heathenry or whatever you want to call it. Now it's all on our shoulders. Now it's our responsibility to try to be better, not somebody else's. Nobody's going to take care of it for us. It's our responsibility to do it. That occurs best in an environment where people can speak together and understand everything we're saying on the same sheet of music. Right now, we have literally millions of people that follow this path that are all kind of making it up as they go. The problem with that is they make it up as they go in the manner that causes them the least pain. So there's no real aspect for growth or development. So, as I said before, things do get better, right? Old wounds heal, relationships grow, just as a matter of course of life. That's exactly right. We can develop our own luck by doing the right thing, being honest, working hard. But by the same token, old wounds become deep scars. The ups and downs of life continue as they always have. Now, much of what spirituality has been predicated upon so far up to this point in our world's history with regards to the Abrahamic faiths is, how do we even out the ups and the downs of life? How do we get that even keel going? Well, you don't. If everything was even keel, hunky-dory the whole way through all the time, why would you ever need to become something more? How would we ever answer that idea in our mind that, hey, it's time to try to be better? That, okay, I have a child. You bring a child into the world, I promise you things are going to change. And for the next 18, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, they're going to continue to be a problem. So do we look at it as a problem? Or do we look at it as this wonderful opportunity, this gift of life that is ours to enjoy? So, that having said that, with regards to the gift of life, I come across something this weekend that truly disturbed me. As a matter of fact, I consider it to be evil in no uncertain terms. It would be that this euthanasia of autistic or intellectual people with intellectual disabilities. So this comes from the London Associated Press. Several people with autism and intellectual disabilities have been legally euthanized in the Netherlands in recent years because they said they could not lead normal lives. What? The cases include 5 people younger than 30 who cited autism as either the only reason or a major contributing factor for euthanasia, setting an uneasy precedent that some experts say stretches the limits of what the law originally intended. In 2002, they decided that doctors can kill patients at their request if they met strict requirements. It's too tough. I'm going to give up. So when we have that gift of life and we have this responsibility to develop and we're expecting somebody else to take care of it, well, they're not taking care of it, so I'm going to go ahead and end it. We have 22 veterans a day that give up their lives because of what they've seen, because they have fought and seen the horrors of war, right? And then they got to come home and deal with that on a daily. So other people can go live life as they see fit. And the best option that some of these jokers can come up with is, well, I'm just going to go ahead. I'm a little bit slow. I'm not quite functioning well. I got all these vaccinations and now I have autism or whatever it may be. I'm going to go ahead and end it. This trial runs over. I'm done with it. At every level, that offends the shit out of me. I don't even know how any other way to say it. Well, I've got intellectual disabilities. Y'all ever been to the Special Olympics? Yeah, that's exactly right. People are out there just saying, well, this is too tough. I'm out. One of them I have heard was young as 12. I can't verify that. A child? Oh, they're so autistic because of, and people ain't going to agree with this, and people don't like it. People don't have to agree with it. Probably a fact checker saying, no, there's no correlation between vaccines and autism. I disagree. You can look that up pretty clearly for yourself. So now we've got big pharma that we get them in the beginning and then they don't quite make it. Well, it's okay. Well, you can pay us a little bit more money. We'll give them this other vaccine that just takes their life. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I think you need a polio vaccine. Nobody wants to live in an iron lung. But at some point, we got to start paying attention to what these things really mean. People willing to give up their lives because, well, it's just too tough. I don't know how to effectively, I can't right now, effectively put it into words how shallow that is as a society to allow something like that to happen. Yeah, I agree. It is. It's bitter and it's wrong. Isn't that the whole purpose of life? To take the challenges that are laid at our feet, no matter what they might look like, and become something more? Last time I checked, Elon Musk had some difficulties with his growing up. Now look at him, richest man in the world. And yet all these other people are saying, well, I'm just going to go ahead and hang it up. How does that happen? Well, I don't think that's really an option for us unless there's cowardice involved. But like I said, I read this last week. I got really choked up about it. And the more I read it, the more I need to expand on it. The cost of a life of high adventure is all that you love. And all of us really are on a life of high adventure. This when we decide to shuck everything behind and say, all right, everything that I've grown up with, it's not working. I'm going to try a different way. That is a real act of courage. That's a real act of courage as opposed to an act of cowardice to say, well, I'm going to go ahead and give up on it. Now, I do not live with the pain that I see some of these other soldiers dealing with on a daily basis. Right? The things that I deal with, I figured out how to deal with. I still have pain, right? It's just a part of being who we are, right? It's an aspect of growth. How do we create an environment where these individuals might find a healthy manner back away from such things? It's a life of high adventure. Everything we used up till now, it didn't offer us, it just kind of left us regular. And every man and every woman has in their heart some kind of idea, some kind of fire, some kind of dream. I mean, we can call it a dream if we want to, of being something more than we currently are. What would that look like? I want to be that. I want to be something great. Okay, but nobody's going to do it for us. I think when we take that great act of courage and faith and say, all this bullshit, I'm done with it. I'm going to try this. I'm going to step forward my best foot trying this and see what happens. That is the kind of courage. That's the courage of men that create good times. Elon's always made some weird choices. Some people think he's evil. Everybody's got an opinion about him. Look, he's done some things that I can't do. He's used his intellectual prowess to become something more. I think we denigrate ourselves by not celebrating the success of a man that, by all accounts, by every other societal standard, he's got handicaps. And in the Netherlands, he could probably go be euthanized at his own request if things were tough. See, I think it's got to be love that drives this whole thing. It's got to be love and it may not necessarily be love of ourselves, right? And that's the big thing right there, is that there is love all along the way. As we sacrifice all of one thing, new things fill their place. There's always a balance. You don't get rid of something and it's not replaced by something else. And the real trick within this spirituality is when it's replaced by something else, we need to make sure that it makes sense, that it's positive, that it's conducive to personal, powerful growth, to success, to becoming something more, to living up to a standard that other people don't even want to try. That's a real bad thing when we just go ahead and say, well, whatever. It's like people, when you make an offering to Tyr for justice, he's the God. No, he's not. Nowhere in the Lord does it say that. What it says about him is he is not known as a reconciler of men, period. Right? He's the original Sky Father, Deus Praetor, right? A cognate of Zeus and Jupiter, Tiwaz. But he is not the God of justice. That is Balder and his son Forseti. Right? That is the gift of Odin and Frigga on our society, is this gift of justice. Love came from somewhere else. Justice came from the cerebral high gods of the mind. So, but it's got to be love that encourages us. It's not justice. There's all kinds of wrongs in the world, but there's got to be something that encourages us to try for the people that we love, that make us want to be better for my children, to set that example for all 5 of my children. Right? 4 of them are grown. I still got 1 at home. Still got 2 more that are becoming a very big part of my life. Right? So all along the way, I've always felt that our children are what we need to set the example for. That's our future. That's really what it's all about. My personal glory, with notwithstanding, it's got to be for those children, for our future. So the example I set, the courage I demonstrate, the ability to get back up and try again, in many cases in my life, it has been just that. Do I have the courage to get up and try again? Shit, I have to. I have no choice. I got these kids, and I brought them into the world. I'm all they have. That's the way you got to look at it. That's the way I look at it anyway. That may not necessarily be right, but it's the thing that kept me moving forward many times, right? And it reminds me that others have faith in me too. These children, they love their daddy. And their daddy needs to do the right thing. And it ain't always easy. And there's nobody else going to do it for me. So that leaves me with some interesting choices, doesn't it? All right. So I got to figure out in this spirituality, not the easy way that's easy and just allows me to continue existing as a screw up, but the tough way, the tough part. Maybe it's something I learned in the infantry. Maybe that's just what I grew up with. Maybe that's the things that my father taught me when it's, all right, boy, go out there and break that horse. You got to wrap your arms around his neck, bite him on the ear until he quits kicking, then saddle him up. That's quite a challenge. But they always make you do the tough things. Well, I'll continue to carry that on in life because my children need that example, because that reminds us that everyone has faith in us too. Other people love us too. Bouldering forward each step we take. Hell yes, come on, try it again. Each new adventure, small or large, grand or mundane, every experience that is not laced with some aspect of love stymies our development. If we're doing it because it's easy, we're not going anywhere. Now, some people have an enormous amount of skill. Some people can build a magnificent wooden table with epoxy and a river in the middle of it, rocks and all kinds of wonderful things. For them, it looks easy. For me, it's going to be, I'm going to get pissed. It's going to frustrate me, right? Till I learn how to do it. Would it be worth it? Well, if I could sell that damn thing for 10 grand, yes, it's worth it. But those are the things, those trial and error, those efforts, those failures, those getting up, those trying again. That's such an important part. See, every morning it empowers the warm memories of those we have loved that have passed on. Every morning, Odin visits Saga, who I believe is probably one of his daughter, and drinks from golden cups and talks about these memories. And after they rebuilt from Ragnarok, they played games on golden tables and talked about those great memories of those that went before. Those memories of the things that inspire us. Every movie we see, every movie or book that we read has something that touches us that says, I succeeded at that too, or maybe I could do that, or I failed when I tried to do that. Maybe I should try it again. That's where we begin to develop. And when we have enough of those successes in a row, then we walk around with our head held high, our chest stuck out, sometimes a pocket full of money to go with it. But we begin to understand I'm worth something. Nobody else was doing it for me. I took care of it. I followed this spirituality. Now something's working in my life. Holy shit. But it ain't easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. It takes a lot of damn effort, right? And it never seems like the direction is clear. But like I say, just like the butterflies always get me. The monarch butterflies migrate thousands of miles. I've never seen one of them fly in a straight line. And yet every year they all end up in Mexico. Thousands of them. What? It's a damn bug. Had it fly 1,000 miles and make it there. So when I'm sitting here thinking, oh, this is too tough, I don't know if I can go on. What, am I not better than a butterfly? See, once we begin to grasp that, then we begin to ignite that fire within ourselves. I'm worth more. I can do more. How do we do that, right? But and the whole purpose of, I went in here and added that, at the end of the day, whether we cross the Rainbow Bridge or whether we cross the bridge into Helheim to visit the halls of our ancestors, one of the things we're going to get to do is tell our ancestors about the wonderful things their descendants are doing. That is inspirational to me. That is inspiring. That is, what a wonderful thing. I remember my grandfather died. He was laying there. He was really very much at the end. They get very old and they get right at the edge. Their eyes become very small, it seems. Laying there, he's conscious, but he's not got one foot over there and one foot over here. And I remember telling him, it's okay, they're all waiting on you, Grandpa. All your brothers and sisters, they're all waiting on you. Go on and go say hi. I'm going to go out and take care of the farm. I'm going to do a little work and get some things going. Went down to the barn to get things going, and then I heard my mom holler at me. He's gone. Sometimes we got to remember that as we move forward in life. That's going to be our reality at some point. Do we want to come to that point? And at that point say, whoa, I've been kind of a screw up all my life. Why don't you come give me some forgiveness so I can get into heaven? Come on, man. But as with any spirituality or adventure, there are common threads, right? And this is what we need to get with. There are ideas that are woven throughout the tapestry of faith and spirituality across time. All of them, the entirety of the Bible, are stories that are, I hate to say plagiarized, but I will, from much older pagan tales. And I do mean every single one of them. They're all from much older pagan sources. And they were all done that way, so it would be familiar with the people that whatever Christian nation it was trying to conquer, it would be palatable to the people they were trying to conquer so the church could make more money. Right? So by the time they got to Mexico and the Aztecs, oh, you don't need to sacrifice your kid. Jesus already did that for you. They kind of jumped on it. But I think that's one of the things that gets me here that's really I'm kind of picking up on is this idea of sacrifice. So one idea is the idea of sacrifice. Yet another is love, as we've discussed, right? And I'll probably expand upon that much, much more. One may also include a desire to connect with the divine in some fashion for us to become something more. And we need to identify that and look at what that means. The unwavering concept that we might rise above our current station in life, I think that's really why we're all trying. We're all trying to rise above our current station in life to feel better about what we're doing and how we're doing it. So when I started where I work now, I started out at a real small pay, going from being a project manager on big power plants. I had to eat a lot of crow. It was not fun. And I had to keep putting one foot in front of the other to go where I'm at now. Now, where I'm at now, I got to take a look at that and realize what got me here may not get me where I want to go. Yep, your thoughts do create your reality. That's no joke. And the thing about that is you got to recognize it. Oh, well, I was talking about that the other day, and there it is. Oh, so maybe the coincidence. Maybe it's not such a coincidence. Now, can you sit on your ass and not do anything? No. You got to do the effort, right? Part of that effort is sacrifice, right? Another thing that we always kind of hope for is that there is guidance or help or even hope in the rituals we perform to maintain a healthy aspect to the spiritual part of our being, to create that balance, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. All of it counts. All of it's got to be firing on the same sheet of music. It's all got to be timed perfectly together for us to move forward, right? But if we think about sacrifice, it's one of those things that it lends itself to kind of scary things to us, right? So in ancient times, the sacrifice was believed to garner all three for the participant of a ritual: help, hope, um, rain, health, fertility. All of those things were a part of sacrifice. It was sending a life energy back to the gods to say, hey, pay attention to me over here, right? Over time, it began to fill out, but we still have these scars upon the psyche of mankind. They've been created terrifying things of it with this Abrahamic faith, right? Hundreds of thousands of skulls in temples in Central America. Well, that's terrifying, right? They didn't necessarily call it sacrifice, but the witch trials and all the witches that were burned in the Middle Ages, and before that, I mean, if you think about it, the same can be said for forests filled with the hanging bodies of defeated enemies, offerings to Odin and Tyr. Whoa. Now, how would that be to be walking along in the middle of the night and you realize, hell, there's bodies hanging on all these trees, right? There's ravens and wolves and everything else eating them. That's a scary thing. That's a scary thing that inspires terror in our modern sensibilities. And so sacrifice gets this ugly word, ugly term, ugly idea about it. In fact, the first feeding ground of the Valkyries were the corpses littered across the battlefield of men who sacrificed their lives for their kingdoms, their nations, their countries, their city-states, their families. They were fed upon by the Valkyries, who I've always heard of the original part of them, they were a terrifying visage. Right? But something else they sacrificed their lives for were the men they were serving with. The man that jumps on the grenade. The man that keeps fighting even though he's those people that win medals of honor. Just read through the list of what those men did to earn that, to be awarded that Congressional Medal of Honor. You think they did that because they were trying to survive? Could be. But they're also trying to save their buddy. Men they have gone through literal hell and back with. And now all of a sudden the chips are down and there's no one left to do it but ourselves. This is a big thing to think about. And in life, it can be the same way. Everybody finds themselves, right, second chance. We all sometimes, in the toughest part of our lives, we find ourselves very alone. We've managed to run everybody off, offend everybody. We find ourselves very much alone. Well, what have we sacrificed in our adventure? Well, maybe we've gone on the wrong path and we've sacrificed everything we love for a negative adventure. And that's a scary thought. Ask any man that's sat in a prison cell, he'll tell you that he has sacrificed. It cost me everything. Ask any man that finally decides, hey, I need to go get into some kind of recovery. Well, why do you need to go to recovery? Why do you need to quit drinking? Why do you need to quit using drugs? Because it's cost me everything. Those are the ego-driven aspects. That's where your ego will lead you, to that idea. Telling you that you're really great, but you've never done any of the effort necessary to become great. It's Loki at the seat of the table. Hal was having the seat, but never doing anything to justify it. Always creating dissension. Such terrifying remembrances have created a window for our mind's eye that we're too afraid to look through for far too long. And now all of a sudden this spirituality is here saying, hey, let's take a look at this. So this terror was mitigated when the Abrahamic faith proclaimed that such a thing would no longer be necessary, as their one true God had sacrificed himself for the entirety of the world. That's an interesting concept, isn't it? You no longer have to do any of the work necessary because he's done it for you. Bullshit. Not when we have something as powerful as our own egos driving us to do something more, or proclaim that we are something more without ever doing. You're not going to be able to bench press 415 pounds if you don't get in there and try. You're not going to be able to run a 10-second mile or a 10-minute or 9-minute mile if you don't get out there and try. Your hot rod's not going to win the race if you don't get out there and work on it. Your paycheck's not going to be big enough unless you find more than one source of income. You're not going to be great just by sitting there thinking about it. Your greatness does not come from your team winning the football game and you wearing the jersey of another man who is actually out there trying. That's what ego does for us. And we were told we don't have to do anything about it because, well, somebody else do it, but that's not the case. So we have to ask ourselves, if they did all these sacrifices in that time, and it was a common and accepted practice, was it terrifying to them? I would submit to you that probably not. This individual being sacrificed was sending their energy to go meet with the gods that were every bit as important to them for thousands of years, tens of thousands of years before this new kid on the block came along and said, well, I'll do it for you. You don't have to do anything. Just send me $1.99, right? And I'll see that he gets it. When I wrote the last book I wrote, Beneath the Sacred Tree, the repetition throughout recorded history is of deities that have been crucified, died for 3 days, been reborn and ascended, has been told in more spiritualities and what we call mythologies than you can believe. Shiva, Buddha, Dionysus, Bacchus, Balder, Odin, all of them crucified. Matter of fact, for the first 600 years of the church, the cross was not the symbol of the church. They refused to do it because it was a pagan image. Right? All of these deities, there's images of Dionysus on a cross. You got to look for them, but they're there. That was a very popular thing. Theirs was the lamb. And why the lamb? Return of spring happens when Aries, constellation Aries, returns to the skies. Right? So that was the Lamb of God when Aries, the constellation, returned to the springtime sky. The lamb was their symbol. So all of those deities that died and were reborn, none of them had the added idea upon it that I'm doing this so you don't have to. The idea was, I'm doing this so you'll know what to do. Here's an example. All of it is figurative, I suppose, unless, it's all a figurative idea. Odin's is the most precise, right? Tears is precise. How does Tears work? So Tyr lost his hand, right? Why did he lose his hand? This is an aspect of the sacrifice that I'm talking about for us to become part of a community. So he takes Fenris Wolf, right? Gets this big dog. The black dog represents, the black wolf represents all of those negative things that might devour the best of who we are. All of the various ills of society. Gambling, drugs, alcohol, women, anything that might take up all of our time, gambling, all of those things that grow within us and threaten our ability to be a part of the community that we're a part of. And anytime we decide to get rid of that, anytime we decide to change that, it costs us something. Some aspect of ourself is given up so we might rejoin the community. Everybody else was afraid of this wolf. Everybody else was afraid of, so Tyr's over here trying to take care of this wolf. He's loving it, feeding it, taking care of it, just like we do with our ego. Take care of it. Don't want anybody to insult it. Don't say anything negative about me. Don't say anything that might hurt my feelings. Don't say anything that might make me question how great I think I am. Because then I'll be angry. Then I'll be a victim. Right? That is the Fenris wolf. And the great Skyfather, the literal grandfather of the Aesir, loses a hand. It always costs us something to come back from that. We have to sacrifice some part of ourselves to get out of that. And for Odin, he does the same thing. Hanging on a tree, sacrificed himself to himself, punctured in the side by a spear. Sound familiar? I would submit to you that one of those tales is much older than the other one. Right? That's sacrificing himself to himself. What an interesting term. What an interesting phrase. It's something we got to think about too. Sacrifice. Those are examples of sacrifice to become better. They're readily apparent in the lore of our faith. I'm going to explore all of them in depth in this book. What they might really mean, what they might really look like. Right? The exploration of the parts of ourselves to sacrifice along the way is a central concept to all of this. Right? That's the idea of growth. So when we come across somebody else talking about something, that's why I invite everybody in here, because there's so many different personalities, so many different people, so many different ideas. Right? How could I possibly know all of them? And yet we all kind of understand that for us to develop into something more, it's going to cost us some effort. And when it comes to talking about developing our spirituality, no one's ever outlined what that looks like. Well, we always approach this spirituality with whatever seems to be easiest. Well, that makes sense. I like that. I don't have to change anything about myself. I can continue to be a power drinker around the fire, raising the horn, and it's called good. All of a sudden, I'm a Viking, power drinker, and when I get done at my 7-Eleven job, I'll come be the chieftain. When I move out of mom's basement and take off my flat cap and my academic book and all these other things, they've never given up anything to become something more. They've simply adopted everything, put on a hammer, read a couple of books. Now they know something. And if they don't agree with it or they don't want to read it, oh, that's racist. Or, oh, that's too liberal. And we insulate ourselves from those things that challenge us, that want us to become more. And this is the real problem. So how do we create something that might be congruent for many people? We invite many people in to see what they have to say. I'm not so insecure in who and what I am that I can't pay attention to something else. I'm sacrificing my ego as a man that's been doing this for almost 2 decades now, has 60 books under my belt, has changed the lives of tens of thousands of people. Okay, how do we help more? How do we help this grow? How do we help this continue? Let's get everybody, let's talk to all of them and see what they have to say. What's your thought on this? Okay, let's have a discussion on that. They may not all be right. Chances are they won't be. I may not be right, but it's going to be damn hard for you to get me to admit that. No. This is what this book, Something More, is going to be centered around. See, there's no rune for love, and yet all the actions of the runes are centered around love. I would love to up it to 1 million lives changed. I would love to see 1 million people doing better in their world. I would love to see people embracing those ideas they dreamed of to become something more. That's probably the best use of my ability to do this, is to help others become something more. That's all there is to it. I'm not going to do anything here that demands somebody, hey, you have to believe this way. That's not me. I'm not smart enough, right? I have some ideas. Let's see if they work. So for this week, that's all I wanted to go over, and I wanted to talk about that. On my Patreon here at 8 o'clock, I'm going to jump into some more stuff on this and probably go a little bit more in depth on some other ideas of sacrifice and love. And that will be a Zoom call, so you'll be able to interact and join in and tell me what you think or how you feel about it, and we'll go from there. And we'll maybe we can create something that'll help everybody move forward. And I think that's the thing that we've left ourselves out of, is we've decided that certain adjectives allow us to be great without ever having to do anything to achieve that greatness. And in the meantime, we've denigrated or left out or cast away or shucked off our responsibility to other people who deserve the same kind of opportunity to grow that we have fought so hard for. Maybe that's the soldier in me, because that's what I believe in. So with that, if anybody doesn't have any questions, you want to throw something up here on the chat, I'll do what I can to answer it. We're going to go ahead and shut it down, and I'm going to get ready for the next go around at 8 o'clock, and we'll do something great. How's that sound? All right. Okay. I appreciate everybody that joined in tonight. I look forward to seeing you next Sunday, and we'll give it a shot one more time. Thanks, guys.